We're into the second half of the 2024 International GT Open season, and we're in the country where Grand Prix racing was born back in the late 19th century. We're at Circuit Paul Ricard in Le Castellet. 247 different layouts, but only one that concerns the drivers this weekend. The 5.842 kilometre Grand Prix layout, which includes the chicane halfway down the Mistral, which has been a popular top speed tester since the circuit was opened back in 1970. Chris Stevens and George Morgan in the commentary box. George, it might be the Paris Summer Olympics this time next week, but we've got some games to play of our own with 33 GT3 cars.
We certainly do, and it's going to be a pleasure to watch indeed. Changeable conditions, it looks vastly different than before. Of course, yesterday we had the humongous heat. Now this time we have got somewhat of a deluge with wet tyres, I think, making an appearance here for this upcoming race. It has been well, the race will start, in fact, behind the safety car, so lights will be on regardless. Front row, though, Riccardo Agostini, after setting the fastest time prior to the rain falling as it did, and what a timely fashion it arrived into. The Spirit of Race Ferrari back on top, as it's so used to being, with reigning champion Marco Polcini, who will take over for the second half of the stint.
Yes, I think that means that we'll have to start on wet tyres. We're starting behind the safety car. And yes, the story of qualifying was very much the ISR Audi, which brought out the red flags. There were a number of drivers that were improving on their lap times. There was 12 minutes left in the session, but when we got going again, the rain had arrived, so no one could improve anyway. And so that very much cemented things in place. But I dare say we have a few cars that will be aiming to move forward and feeling like they are out of position. Riccardo Agostini standing in for Eddie Cheever in the car that is starting on pole position, the number 27 Spirit of Race Ferrari 296 that is leading the Pro-Am Championship. Yesterday's race winner Christopher Haase starting alongside him. We have a flurry of Pro-Am cars right in the mix because so many of the Pro-Am runners fielded their Am driver for qualifying yesterday, meaning the pros are doing this one because they anticipated that the session would be wet. They wanted the pros in for a potentially wet qualifying session, and that means that we have got pro drivers all the way through the top 25.
Yeah, the wet weather was paramount coming into the weekend. A few drivers, and no doubt, we're looking at the weather forecasts on Thursday and Friday as the pre-weekend testing took place. And of course, it would be the car that sits on pole that went fastest in the private test coming into the weekend as well. So it definitely sets the tone. Another pairing that went fastest in free practice too was Simon RICARD and Christopher Haase, and they won yesterday's race. Mikael Pitamba and Dominic Baumann, no fond memories of wet weather as far as Mikael Pitamba is concerned. If we remind you back at Hungaroring, where he was on the cusp of taking the victory, and in the closing laps, it all fell apart.
But the difference now, George, is they will be on wet tyres. It's been put on the timing screen as well. Wet tyres are mandatory if we're starting behind the safety car. Which of course makes absolute sense. If we're saying it's dangerous enough to start behind the safety car, then you should be on wet tyres.
Should be on wets, yeah.
Exactly. The Proctors here took their first Pro-Am podium of the season. The lad and dad combination from Aberdeen. In the Greystone GT McLaren, Lewis Proctor starting from 5th in his class and 8th position overall. Lucas Dunner starting the number 96.
Quite the breeze,
Motorpark Mercedes. Yeah, there is, isn't there? Now, that car picked up a 5-second time penalty at the end of yesterday's race for contact with Alessio De Leda, so they were reduced to a 7th place finish, obviously hoping that they can move a little bit further forward. Strong qualifying for Motorpark. 3 cars inside the top 10 with their Pro-Am car. Thomas Eichen also up there in 10th position overall and 6th in their class. I'll be handing over to Morten Stromsted. It's a combination that has done very well so far, has scored 4 podiums so far this year, including at the Spa Endurance race as well. Now, car collection Porsche. They must be loving seeing these conditions because we know that the Porsches tend to run very well in mixed and changeable conditions. The rear engine car that hunkers down and gets great traction in these conditions. They are certainly ones to watch out for from 11th place for the number 15 crew.
Yeah, it certainly will be. And another pairing that'll be hoping for a better day as well is the pairing of Serna Giotto and Cozy as part of the AF Corsa outfit. Of course, had a couple of spins in yesterday's race. The rain still continuing to plummet downwards. We move to 13th place. Artem Petrov alongside Marzio Moretti for this particular encounter. Of course, last year, this would be the particular race 2 last campaign, where Oregon would take victory with Pierre-Louis Chauvet and Maximilian Paul. They'll be hoping for the same this time. Leonardo Polcini here as well, lining up 14th on the grid. The 2022 champion back again. Lamborghini, of course, factory driver, a grand talent, and I'll be hoping he can figure towards the end of the race.
Caught up with PLC earlier in the paddock. Great to see him here. Of course, he's with some of the support series that we have with us this weekend. Ollie Webb and the second Greystone GT McLaren back with us in the championship after missing a couple of rounds. You see the sort of gull-wing doors on the McLaren there, which is unique amongst the GT3 cars we have here. The 6 different manufacturers. Jamie Stanley, who was very firmly crossed off of Christopher Haas's Christmas list yesterday when the Audi Works driver was trying to find his way through the lap traffic. And I said it in commentary, that's probably the hardest he's ever worked for a position, and it wasn't even for position.
No, it wasn't. We heard Haas say it was the hardest I've ever worked, but we now take a look at good speed. Just look at the breeze. Even further down the pit lane, it's getting stronger as Dan Arrow will be taking the helm. Of course, was formerly of Oregon team last season, now has returned to the International GT Open. Great to see him back, this time behind the wheel of a Mercedes-AMG GT3 for good speed Mercedes. Best of luck to them as well. Moving down the order once more, of course, we have in grid position 19, Paolo Roberti, who lines up alongside Dan Arrow, another Pro-Am contingent here behind the wheel of a Ferrari.
Oh, you can hear the breeze, can't you?
Yeah.
It is stiff.
It's aggressive
out there. Yeah. So wonder how that's going to affect things. We've got headwind, tailwind into certain corners. I mean, we're expecting this to be very tricky conditions for the drivers. But if it doesn't continue to rain too hard, obviously there's every chance they'll end up on slicks during the driver change. And of course, we can harken back to Monza last year when we saw Oregon going for slicks in the driver change. Get Speed stayed on the wets. We had a thrilling fight as they went through the various parts of the circuit. The wetter section where the Get Speed would come back at the Lamborghini, which would pull away on the drier parts of the circuit. And I think we're in for much of the same here as at Blau Motorsport. Marcelo Hahn was on the Pro-Am podium yesterday in second position. Once again, the former Pro-Am champions in the International GT Open. Obviously back with us for a full season campaign, but up at the front, this is going to be a thrilling fight between the likes of Agostini, Haase, Fuminelli, Alex Fontana right up in there as well. Don't discount Carol Bash. And then our top 2 in the championship before the going into this weekend, Dominic Baumann and Marcos Seibert starting right next to each other on the grid. Baumann in 6th, Seibert in 7th. That's the 2 Mercedes. They're the purple and white car, and then the gold and green car that we can see on the 3rd and 4th row. But let's look back at what happened yesterday in very different conditions. The searing heat we saw, which was Fabian Schiller leading the way ahead of Jordan Pepper. But there was disputes over how those two went through the first corner, with Fabian having to give the place up. When Alessio Deleda got in the car, he was hounded straight away with Christopher Haase filing his way through the order with a sensational move on Deleda. First of all, they came very close to contact. Deleda ended up yielding a few more positions, namely to Marcos Seibert in the latter stages of the race. But Christopher Haase forced his way through to the front, and on the penultimate lap of the race, finding his way through on Anthony Bartone's Get Speed Mercedes that started from pole position. It was an absolutely storming and charging drive from the East Talent Racing pairing of Haase and RICARD, and they took their 3rd victory of the season to re-announce their championship challenge for the year. Their 3rd time on the podium, their 3rd time on the top step as well. This is what it's done to the championship standings going into the 2nd race of the weekend. Diego Benchacra and Marcos Seibert continue to lead the championship, but they're tied on points with Mikael Patamba and Dominic Baumann following the penalties that we saw yesterday. Haase and RICARD right up there in 3rd now as well. So race 2 about to get underway in treacherous conditions. The wipers are on, the wet tyres are on as well. Here is how they line up. It's Riccardo Agostini in the spirit of Race Ferrari that lines up alongside yesterday's race winner, Christopher Haase, on the front row of the grid. David Fuminelli and Alex Fontana continue the Pro-Am contingent in 3rd and 4th. On the third row of the grid, it's Carol Bash and Dominic Baumann, the joint championship leader, starting from 6th. His title rival, Marcos Seibert, starts just behind him in the Motorpark Mercedes in 7th place, ahead of Lewis Proctor in the Greystone GT McLaren. And the Pro-Am runners there, Lucas Dunner going from 9th ahead of his teammate Thomas Eichen. It's a Pro-Am lining for the Motorpark team. Nico Menzel in the Car Collection Porsche, starting ahead of Giorgio Serna-Giotto's AF Corsa Run Ferrari. Then a pair of Oregon Lamborghinis, Artem Petrov in 19, ahead of Leonardo Polgini in 63. Ollie Webb and Jamie Stanley continue the Pro-Am battle slightly further down in 15th and 16th. Then we've got Anthony Bartoni, finished 2nd yesterday, ahead of Dan Arrow in 18th, and Paolo Roberti and Nicolo Marinangeli going from 20th position. Then Jim Pla and Marcelo Hahn. Slightly further down we have Alessio De Leda in 23rd position, then Valentin Pierberg and Philippe Salacada in 25th position. But of course, this is the start of the race because we've started under safety car. There is no formation lap, and so we are, with the clock has started, we're going into the 60 minutes now, and hopefully it won't be long before this safety car comes in.
Yeah. Just tell from the cameras as well, even it's struggling to cope with the windy weather that is out there right now. Absolutely unbelievable conditions out there for the drivers to face. And obviously, you look at the likes of Agostini, Haase, Fuminelli, 3 sensational drivers there. Alex Fontana as well, Carol Bash, Dominic Bauman's ever so experienced, Marcos Seibert, ELMS champion from last campaign, and many others all the way down through the field. And I'm sure a couple of AMs that are looking to make a name for themselves as well as part of a Pro-Am fight. But it's going to be sensational. It'd be interesting to see how quickly Leonardo Polgini can make his way through the field. Obviously starting 14th, Artem Petrov along for the ride with him. Can he break through and challenge the likes of Serna-Giotto, Menzel, as well as Thomas Eichen? But surely it's a case of who is going to manage their own strategies well enough, because obviously the handicaps are going to play a prevalent role, especially given the fact that Haase and RICARD went ahead and took the victory yesterday. 10 seconds of handicap to be served during the driver change window phase, and they're not the only ones either. Valentin Pierberg and Aaron Walker, who have got to serve their own 10 seconds after winning in Pro-Am yesterday as well. It's going to be a thrill ride. Obviously, could yet open more doors in terms of the championship. It's already close enough as it is. I think we'll be even more puzzled come the end of the race as to where this title is going to go.
Just see how difficult the conditions are out there, and the wind speed has really shot up in the last half an hour or so. As we saw it on the grid, you can hear it on the cameras as well. This is Nico Menzel's view from what is 11th position. See, spray's not too bad, but of course they're not running at full speed just yet. So we're into the 3rd sector. Safety car lights are still on. Of course, what this means is that if you've got a handicap to serve, this really isn't doing you too many favors, because it's eating into time you could be building an advantage. You'd be hoping to build an advantage so that you can minimize the effect of the handicap. But of course, we're now eating into that time. We're almost 3 minutes into the race already, so we should be on starting in the middle of a second lap. But yeah, for the likes of Haase and the AF Corsa cars as well, the Pro-Am leaders, then this is going to be difficult for them to try and make up for it with 20 minutes. 25 minutes into the race when the driver change window opens. I'm sure they'll try and stretch out as much as possible. In terms of Pro and Pro-Am, it probably won't make that much difference, because most of the Pro-Am cars have got their Pro in the cars. It's probably quite even Stevens, actually. But we're going to do a second lap under the safety car. And Agostini, well, the rain has really helped him out so far. It helped him secure pole position earlier this morning, and it's helping him with an early lead right now as well, as he will launch us from pole position once we do get going again. And I'm sure some of these drivers are just itching to get going, because there's an awful lot at stake here in terms of the championship. As we saw, the number 20 and the number 17 crews, they are tied on points going into this race. We are into the second half of the season. We have such a stellar championship fight on our hands. And we still have no idea how it's going to end up, and we still certainly won't know by the end of this race, as we see drivers exploring different lines here through the hotel chicane, trying to find where the grip is.
Well, I mean, if you look at some of the championship contenders, we talk about Dominic Baumann, Mikel Petamba, Marcos Seibert, Diego Menchaca, who came into the weekend with 1 point between them, and then on top of that, getting themselves into a situation where they've yet to win a race so far through the entirety of this season. And you've got other contenders further down. Obviously, we factor in Alphysal Zubair, Mikel Grenier. They're, of course, two-time race winners, won the Spa 500 earlier on, but, of course, not doing the full campaign. But you look at the likes of Alessio Deletta, Jordan Pepper, as well as Christopher Haase, Simon Riker. You know, all these are teams, as well as Fabian Schiller, Anthony Bartone, that have taken race wins. And on top of that, Leonardo Polcini, can't forget him either. But they've all taken race wins, but aren't currently looking... You know, they didn't come into this weekend leading the championship, so it's a very interesting complexion where it comes to the championship. You've got those that are consistently in the points, you've got those that might have moments in and out, but they get those important results when they matter the most. And that's exactly what East Talent Audi have done. They've put themselves in the position now where they can challenge for this title. 3 wins to boot this season, the most of any team that have taken part this season. So they are very much the benchmark, I would say now. And Dominic Baumann and Mikel Petamba are going to have to get cracking. They need some grander points in order to solidify their position towards the top, much like Marcos Seibert, Diego Menchaca, but there's so many others that are looking to break into the fold.
I'm sure they would have fancied their chances
at Hungary.
Well, yes, of course, in Hungary they have had a couple of near misses, but if you look at the grid, they're the top pro car that doesn't have any handicap in 6th position at the moment, but also it's the same case for Marcos Seibert and Diego Menchaca behind them, so that could well be the fight towards the end of the race. We'll have to see how it all unfolds. Of course, there's a flurry of Pro-Am cars between them and Chris Haase as well. But remember, Haase has got the handicap to take. Right, still no indication that the safety car is coming in, and indeed it is not. So we're going to do a third tour under the safety car, just to make sure these cars are getting enough experience of the grip, so that when we go racing, we don't have too many incidents out there.
All part of the safety routine, and we've had quite the collective of race winners here. And if we take a look at the past as well, I mean, obviously we've spoken about Oregon success last season, but we've also got a few drivers that have won here in the past as well. Vincent Abril being one of them back in 2020, along with Jordan Pepper the following year, and in fact exactly the race after here at Paul Ricard. He actually won in 2021 race 1. So we've got a few names that have sprung up in the past that have gone on to grand success, and they'll feature again here this afternoon. So who knows, we could see one of them go and make it 2 here at Paul Ricard in the International GT Open.
Certainly could. You see the Get Speed Mercedes there, the Bartone Bros liveried car that's down in 17th position. It's a car that finished 2nd yesterday and is a title contender, with Bartone sharing that car with Fabian Schiller, Mercedes Works driver. So we'll see in the second half of the race Schiller, Pepper as well, and the likes of Vincent Abril as well, who were line astern throughout most of the first stint yesterday. It was a very tense first stint yesterday, where they were trading punch and counter punch, and then of course race control had to get involved because they weren't happy with how Fabian Schiller cut the chicane at the start of the race.
Much to Pepper's delight, I'm sure.
Yes, exactly. They told him to give the lead up to Jordan Pepper. And I dare say they'll need to be studying the first corner once again here, with conditions not improving. Right, safety car is coming in at the end of this lap. We are going to get going. 51 minutes left on the clock as it stands. And we will go racing for the second time this weekend in completely different conditions. Yesterday it was the searing heat, track temperature of 50 degrees. Today it's just 18 degrees ambient, track temperature only at 21. We have rain in the air, the cars are on wet tyres, and we'll see how the conditions change, because we could well see them go back onto slick tyres. If anyone's feeling brave enough in the pit stop phase, as it stands, I'd say still looking like wets at the moment, but the safety car will be coming in shortly. We're into the third and final sector now, and it will be Riccardo Agostini's AF Corsa run, Spirit of Race Ferrari 296 that leads the field. Ricky standing in for Eddie Cheever, who's racing elsewhere this weekend. He's helping Marco Polcini with his championship hunt in the Pro-Am standings, and he's certainly done a good job by putting it on pole position for this one. So he will be on the right-hand side of the grid. The left-hand side is, we will look at it, but Chris Farser chasing in behind, bit of bunching up at Virage Dupont, but we are finally racing in Le Castellet. Agostini puts his foot to the floor on the 3-litre twin-turbo V6, and he is hounded by Christopher Haase down the front straight. And the Audi Works driver will try and snatch the lead going into the first corner, but there's no way through, although a tighter line for Haase going into turn one at the first time of asking. Two very different lines being taken by the top two as they tippy-toe their way through these first few corners. On board here with Artem Petrov, looking at the back of Leonardo Polcini, I think that was his teammate, who seems to have cleared him in the opening stages. And straight on at the chicane goes Nico Menzel. The car collection Porsche having to take to the escape road, and now Haase doing a dive up the inside into the hotel chicane, the last section of the track, and Menzel's going really, really slowly. He's got some sort of problem on that car by the looks of it.
It certainly looks that way. Riding over the curbs, unfortunately forfeiting place after place. Great start, it has to be said, from Haase, putting the pressure on Agostini straight away. Fuminelli seemingly, I'm not sure whether that's a transponder problem, but he's dropping down through the field here on our timing screen as we now ride on board with Menzel, now sat behind the Motor Park team as well. But a great start as well for Leonardo Polcini, getting past his teammate.
Oh, several cars having to go off at the chicane, including the race leader, including Marcos Seber as well. It looked like the Greystone GT McLaren was also off as well. So a few cars not getting it stopped for the chicane. What has that done in terms of the leaders? Because we saw Agostini, he had to go off at the escape road. And no, it still looks like Haase in second position. Still he's ahead of David Fuminelli. Those cars did make the chicane at the first time I was giving it. Listen to the conditions. It's absolutely torrential out there, and now Menzel seems to have got it going again. He just seemed to be really struggling to get that car back up to speed when he rejoined the circuit, and we saw a big slide there for Lucas Dunner in the Motor Park Mercedes. Menzel really trying to get it back position again. He's on the inside. I was thinking about it. I think Menzel was probably just trying to let the cars back through, that he might have jumped by cutting the chicane, because he does seem to have good speed now as Haase. Well, is he defending or is he attacking? He's probably doing both at the moment, as he's the meat in a Ferrari sandwich at the moment. Heading down the straight once again, and Alex Fontana is looking very quick as well there in the Pro-Am car collection Porsche. And it looks like he's made his way through on David Fuminelli and into third position. So Fuminelli not getting the best run. Well, he was ahead of the timing line, but Fuminelli's come back at him down the front straight and into turn number one. So third position, swapping and changing hands there. They field their way through. Here comes Haase for the lead of the race on the inside into the hotel chicane. He's had a few runs up the inside, but Agostini really liking those wider lines. He's finding grip out there, and so it looks like Haase's trying to make moves, but Agostini's got him covered as it stands. He once again tried the inside line at turn number 5. And we're going to have contact there between Menzel and the Lamborghini. It looks very, very tight indeed. And again, we see two completely different lines from the race leaders. Now, are they side by side coming down the Mistral now? Because Agostini was out very, very wide. It's a glare of headlights as the light is really fading. But Haase's through. Haase is into the lead of the race ahead of Agostini. So yesterday's race winner, Christopher Haase, hits the front.
Yeah, fantastic job from Christopher Haase, now ahead of Riccardo Agostini. Further back, it looks like it was a transponder error from David Fuminelli. The timing screen just had to update. He's now in third place and showing there. Alex Fontana just in behind him. Carol Bash also waiting in the wings. We're running on board with Dan Arrow for Good Speed Mercedes, who's now trying to find his way past Ollie Webb inside the Greystone GT McLaren 720S as they now power on through. And further up, moves being made. Giorgio Sonegiotto fancying a move on Lucas Dunner. Here's the move again for the lead of the race. Textbook from Haase, showing all his class in such dire conditions.
Yep, through on the inside there, but of course for Agostini, it's not really his fight. So just wants to try and keep it on the road and build a nice margin.
Oh.
Right, cars everywhere at Le Bousset.
Wow.
On board with Petrov in 16th position. So he's looking at the back of Arrow, who's a sharp shooter, I must say. And now Fontana. Fontana is through into third. He's gone ahead of Fuminelli, and he's now going for second. I said watch out for those Porsches, and Fontana's flying as Carol Bash runs wide the exit of Virage Dupont.
Great effort from Fontana, taking full advantage. Fuminelli forced to wait in the wings, now sits in 4th place, and now looks like Fontana's challenging for P2, this time against Agostini, who's dropped off the back of Haase. Carol Bash also trying to figure with Dominic Baumann on his outside. Here comes the good speed of Dan Arrow, heading in towards turn 1, challenging Ollie Webb, but no way near enough alongside in order to challenge, so therefore he'll have to wait in the wings as we now go back to the front end. Agostini once again under pressure. Fontana's round. Fontana round at Hotel Chicane. Disaster for them. The Porsche looks so bright coming out of the final sector and has paid the ultimate price.
One car going off as well. That's Jamie Stanley's Ferrari. Just seeing on the time screen, the cars cutting turn 8 are going to be under investigation. That was on the first lap, but here's what happened with Fontana. Just too much curb there by the looks of it, and he loops the Porsche around. Such a shame, because that car was looking very, very strong in the opening stages of this race. The Porsche running very well in these conditions, as we see Fuminelli trying to get around the outside. He cuts the chicane, trying to get around Agostini there. That's Racing 1 versus Spirit of Race run by AF Corso. We see Baumann is up into 4th position as well. So yeah, he did get ahead of Bash at the first corner. Haase stretching his legs now. 2.4 clear of the rest of the field, as again, I think Fuminelli having to let Agostini back through.
Yeah. There is a warning going out, cars cutting turn 8 and gaining an advantage. That's coming into the Mistral. Obviously, we just saw that happen between Fuminelli and Agostini. Of course, Fuminelli giving the place back. There's the Proctor Greystone as well. It's been closed up upon by Marcos Seibert in a battle for 6th place. Dominic Baumann just ahead of them too, as we now ride on board with Nico Menzel, who is trying to close up on Thomas Eichen and make a move in Sector 3. He goes down for the aggressive line and hoping that Thomas Eichen runs out a little wide. Then the pace might carry that Motorpark car, the Motorpark Mercedes, in all red and black through, as now once again Fuminelli coming close to wheel with Agostini here, coming in towards Pont Corner. Can Fuminelli get the switch back? He certainly can, and they're going to run wheel to wheel, heading out to the final bend down towards turn 1. The 2 Pro-Ams fighting over the Pro-Am lead, but not just that, P2 overall as well. Haase is leaning clear. He's 3.3 seconds ahead of the 2 cars in behind, but who's going to win the battle heading in towards turn 1? By the looks of it, according to the transponder, Fuminelli's nose was in front, but we've got Menzel under pressure, but it looks like he's taken on Thomas Eichen, but through back goes Agostini, back on Fuminelli for 2nd place.
Oh my goodness me, this is so treacherous now. I think we're going to start seeing cars aquaplaning here if we're not too careful.
Look at that! Goodness me!
Agostini can barely get it stopped. Anyone can. It's just the track is absolutely flooded right now. Surely they're going to be thinking about suspending this race soon, as everyone is skating off the road at the Hotel Chicane. Dan Arrow being one of them. That wasn't a bullseye for him for sure.
God, quite the re-entry as well, coming through turn 6 and out of turn 5. Wow, look at the visibility.
Can't see
There's
anything.
nothing. Artem Petrov really struggling here, and you can just see, even us in the cockpit cam view, really struggling to really see. Oh no!
He had to jam on the anchors in the middle of a high-speed left-hander. He's in the gravel by the sounds of it, maybe even in the barriers as well. But yeah, that's Petrov round, and my goodness me. Obviously something happened in front of him. He had to jam on the anchors. That's Seibert trying to get on the inside of Menzel.
I'll tell you what, Christopher Haase has got clear air out in front of him. He's the only one probably with full visibility, if any.
Which is an advantage, but he's also finding out the weather first and foremost before anyone else. So, yet Seibert did go through into 6th position ahead of Menzel by the looks of it. Or is that Menzel coming back through?
Menzel might have got it back, yeah.
Well, the car's been really adventurous there with the... And we have the safety car back out, and so, right, so Lacourte's gone off, Cipriani's gone off. This is at the Hotel Chicane by the looks of it. You can just see nothing. You can just see in the distance somewhere there is a rain light flashing, but you see there was absolutely nothing Cipriani could have done with that. The pit window is postponed, of course, because we do have a safety car out, and we were just coming up to the window in a few minutes' time, but no, unsurprisingly, the safety car has had to be deployed because conditions are just absolutely treacherous out there.
Yeah, they are. Real risk, no surprises. The race control have opted to release the safety car out on track. Haase, though, still out in front, though. That gap that he had generated that went beyond 4 seconds is going to be dissipated now. It's falling by the moment. 1.7 as they cross the timing line and enter onto the next lap. We've got 39 minutes and 40 to go. Driver change window, pit window postponed for now until we get further note from race control, but the safety car will now bring them to a very steady delta pace, which all the drivers will have to conform to. Agostini still holding on to that Pro-Am lead, and into the pits comes Artem Petrov.
Yeah, so he had the spin earlier on. We think he might have hit the barriers as well, probably just coming in to get that car checked, or maybe even to retire it. Well, and a moment of calm befalls the circuit pour Ricard.
In a storm, believe it or not.
Yes,
calm
exactly.
in a storm.
Calm in a storm. And, okay, yeah, so it's a new set of wet tyres going on there. So clearing the gravel out as well.
Yeah, it might be maybe a bit of flat spotting coming through out of turn 7.
Oh my God! Look at the rain sideways. Oh,
now,
well done to the marshals.
Spare a thought for the marshals here this
Yeah.
weekend, because let's be honest. Would you want to be out there in those conditions?
No.
True professionals.
No, I would not.
They're phenomenal.
Thank you for your work today, Orange Army. We're
Yeah.
really appreciative of it. Okay, so under safety car conditions, Christopher Haase leads in the East Talent Racing Audi. Riccardo Agostini, despite several challenges from David Fuminelli behind, does still hold second position and the Pro-Am lead. So that's Spirit of Race ahead of Racing 1. Dominic Baumann has moved up to 4th position in the SBS Mercedes. Nico Menzel up to 5th. He's made great ground. Started 11th, that car. Marcos Seibert is 6th in the championship, leading Motorpark Mercedes. Lewis Proctor 3rd in Pro-Am. And 8th overall. Sorry, Carol Bash's transponder wasn't working there. So Carol Bash is in 4th overall. And then 3rd of the Pro-Am runners. Then it's Baumann, then it's Menzel, then Seibert. Proctor in 8th, Thomas Eichen in 9th in the Motorpark Mercedes. Dan Arrow has been shooting high in the Goodspeed Mercedes, in 10th position overall now, ahead of Ollie Webb. Then Giorgio Cernichiotto, Leonardo Polcini, Jim Plar and Lucas Dunner is the top 15. In AM, it's Adamo Seiko who's come out on top after spins for Lecourt and Cipriani. That is 24th and 25th position overall as it stands.
Yeah, riding on board here with Dan Arrow, who's done an impeccable job, moving up into 10th place, and is now looking to hunt down after Thomas Eichen in 9th as well. Ollie Webb down in 11th. Giorgio Cernichiotto, who's got Leonardo Polcini for company. That is not a company that you necessarily want, with Jim Plar and Lucas Dunner. Jamie Stanley also getting a reasonable start.
And we're very happy to have Dan Arrow back in the championship. It must be the Dutch-Polish 20-year-old who's been embracing his Polish side since joining Piotr Avira, who is the Goodspeed team owner, and running together in the GT Winter Series this year. But Dan Arrow also adding another string to his bow by doing the GT World Challenge Europe this year as well with Winward Racing, and combining that with a few other programs as well. But yeah, we see him in 10th position as it stands.
No further action on the Turn 8 runoffs. Obviously, race control were looking into the mass amount that were occurring. Obviously, it's quite a deluge out there, and you can see there from the mist that that rain is deploying. The visibility, as we saw from the cockpits, very little to none, and obviously a mitigating factor in those certain moments. But no further action from race control in terms of Turn 8. Christopher Haase still leads the way. You can see the spray just off the car. As we rejoin the Blau group, and Alam Coder getting set to jump into the car, of course stepping in for Marcello Hahn later on. Former race winners in this championship as well, have done exceptionally well in the past in the International GT Open, and a fantastic representative here in the Pro-Am fight.
17th year together for Marcello Hahn and Alam Coder. Actually, longer than most marriages.
Actually took pole here at Paul Ricard back in 2019, the pair of them, which was absolutely spectacular on their part.
Red flag, George. We have a red flag out, so the race is suspended. And it might be a bit of a wait to see how these conditions are going to improve, but obviously race control not happy with the state of the track at the moment. And we have suspended the race, so all cars are going to line up in the pit lane in the order that they are in.
I think that's the only call race control could have made, really, based on what we've already seen.
It was either that or sit behind the safety car for another 35 minutes, most likely, right, which none of us want to see.
No, and it means we still have the clock stopped at 35:05, so there will still be more racing to be had. Last thing you want is obviously to hoover that time up behind the safety car. So obviously the day is not done yet for Christopher Haase, though we will wait and see what this weather brings us and how long it's going to be around for. Just to update you in terms of the air temperature, lowest it has been all weekend, 19.7 for track temperature. Air temperature at 17.3, unheard of. The humidity, however, risen to a storming 88%.
That's like being back in Budapest, isn't it?
Almost.
That was horribly humid. That was. Glad we're in our nice air-conditioned commentary box for this one. He said, having just thanked the marshals for being out there in these
look at the
conditions
wind speed as well. I mean, that is extraordinary.
It has shot up, hasn't it?
14.5 kilometers an hour. That is unbelievable.
I think that's just what it is now. I mean, it was up to nearly 60 earlier.
Outrageous.
And, you know, you can hear it. So
obviously, it depends on where you are at the track as well, because I think there's certain areas, especially around Bousset, where things start to open up.
Well, we are right next to an airfield.
Yeah.
As well. The private airport that is to the left-hand side of the starting grid, and we've seen small planes being taken off and landing all day, really, in fact right in front of our commentary box position, so naturally there's a bit of gust in the area.
Yeah, well, it's blowing from northwest to southeast, so lots of activity as far as the wind's concerned, so obviously that will affect the behavior of the cars as the drivers look to try and make their way around the track. Into the pit lane, though, they come as we ride on board with Nico Menzel and Gustav Bergström, who is supposed to be taking the wheel later on when the driver change window opens. Remember, taking the opening stint yesterday was a very active stint for them as well, as we see more cars perusing through the final sector. But confident start for Haase, but I can't imagine this is ideal for him, because obviously in this opening stint, Easterlent Audi would have preferred to career away to try and mitigate the 10-second handicap that they're going to be faced with when the driver change comes round. Yeah, they won't get much time at all now, will they? So this is going to really hinder them.
Yeah, it's going to really hinder them. And well, also any cars that have the handicap, which includes Valentin Pierberg's Get Speed Mercedes, Anthony Bartone's Get Speed Mercedes, Marcello Hahn's AF Corsa Ferrari, the Polcini Ferrari, the Lacorte AF Corsa Ferrari, and the AM leader Adamos Akers Get Speed Mercedes. Although, in a sense, they're all Adamos Akers.
Technically are, given the fact that he's the boss. Yes, absolutely. The cars are stacked at the end of pit lane. Now, the visibility looks a little better down the home straight, obviously based on our camera view. Obviously, no spray being kicked up, however, so it might be a different set of affairs. But already the cars have been declared to line up in the fast lane. The cars apparently can be worked on as deemed by race control, but no refueling, no driver change. Those are the strict conditions that have been put in place for the cars as they queue up, awaiting to go back out again. So hopefully it won't be too long before we get back underway, but still red flag conditions as it stands. So if we take a look at some of the other drivers that have grand opportunities here, you've got to immediately look at Dominic Baum and Nico Menzel and Marcos Seeber, who are currently lined up there too. Pitamba, you know, given the fact that he has pulled out extraordinary performances in the past, today could be his day. And what about Nico Menzel and Gustav Bergström? You wouldn't write them off in these conditions either.
I certainly wouldn't. Of course, his teammate Bergström, he's spent a bit of time rally crossing since we were in Budapest, and so we'll certainly know how to handle slick conditions. And of course, it's kind of it's native to Scandinavians as well, isn't it, really? They know how to handle low grip conditions.
And that's why rallying is such a popular sport.
Exactly. And you also, you can't get his heartbeat up either, Bergström. You just can't. He is our very own Iceman.
He is, as such. And I must say, I mean, you've got to give Nico Menzel credit, because despite having to let all those places through to the other cars, he has done unbelievably well to crawl back up to 6th place. I mean, that is a huge mission on his part. So credit to him for that, and it just goes to show how well the Porsche does behave, especially in that final sector. And when conditions do get dire, that's exactly what you need, a reliable car underneath you, and that's exactly what this car collection Porsche has given them. But Haas is still at the front, and I must say, after yesterday, I'm sure that they'll be happy just to take away the race win, though I'm sure they'd love to make it 4. They're coming closer into the title. I mean, anything can happen. I mean, obviously, with Simon Riker stepping in when the driver change window opens up, we could see a thoroughfare change of conditions. You never know, we could see multi-stops before the end of the race.
We could. Timo Rumpf Kyle making his way down to his cars. Not racing, though, this weekend. He and Heiko Neumann waiting for their car to still be repaired by HWA after Heiko Neumann slid into the side of Morten Stromsted in Budapest. And, of course, that is a significant blow for their hopes of defending their AM championship. But obviously, we hope to see them back after the summer break when we head to Red Bull Ring. Marzio Moretti there in the Oregon garage, Lamborghini Junior driver, of course, who's found a nice home in Team Oregon, as do many Lamborghini Juniors. It's become
fantastic team to
yeah, so it's just become their forte, housing their junior drivers, some of them, like Polcini, even going on to factory status.
Yeah, which is an absolute feat, not just for the driver, but for the team as well. Sends a clear message that they're doing all the right things to help these young talents come through. And immediately my eyes peeled to Alessio Dono as well, who marked his first appearance in the International GT Open. And after appearing in Ferrari Challenge competition, and even prior to that, came in last last weekend we had at Hungaroring. Certainly gave a good account of himself, and a rapid star that I'm sure is going to be on the up in years to come. So we'll soon see.
And of course, Polcini's teammate for this weekend is Amaury Bonduelle, his third different teammate of the season, while Ralph Eneiken continues to recover from his injury at Spa. But the Belgian driver, being a Super Trofeo Europe competitor, probably one of the fastest, I think he's scored pole position in every single race he's done so far this season. And so as we see old Baron Rampante just
good reliable cable ties.
Yeah, exactly. Just patching up the rear of the Lamborghini. They're equally SBS patching up the front of Dexter Muller's Mercedes. Yeah, so just going back to Bonduelle, as some of the bollards being replaced.
Yeah, the rope snapped, unfortunately, on the previous one, hence why the bollard went into the middle of the...
I think a car hitting it probably helped.
It probably did. Snap,
it
doesn't take a lot, does it?
As well, but yes, well, Bonduelle, he only did his first GT3 race in the Ultimate Cup Sprint Series 2 weeks ago at Hockenheim, and that was in a Mercedes. So I think his first lap's in a Lamborghini GT3 car with this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely right. Of course, just cast our eyes upon Valentin Pierberg and an Aaron Walker. Of course, Aaron Walker taking the initial stint this time. Pierberg, obviously off the back of winning in the GT Open in the past. It's not the first time that he has been successful. He was successful yesterday, of course, as well in the Pro-Am and unfortunately has to serve the 10-second handicap when the pit stops do roll around. So we'll have to wait and see how they respond, given that too. A few other names that have made places. Ollie Webb as well moved up the order quite a bit. 11th place now, out on track, trying to contest with Dan Arrow, who, like we mentioned, had a great start to this race. Adam Osaka, incidentally, leading the AM category too, which is a fantastic one for him because, of course, it's been dominated so far by Giuseppe Cipriani and the Il Baroni Rampante team. And Adam Osaka well stocked where it comes to get speed this season, with such a huge plethora of grand talents behind the wheels of his Mercedes AMG GT3s, which is fantastic to witness, and great to see these many various different manufacturers coming into close contest here in the International GT Open, as we well, this is a single driver entry. Roberto Lacorte, second in AM status, funny enough, chasing after Adam Osaka, and his son also racing this weekend in single-seater action.
We'll take a closer look at Ollie Webb here in the 24 Greystone GT McLaren, European Le Mans Series champion some years ago. Started racing with his gentleman driver Andre Borodin in GT Cup a couple of years ago, back in the GT Cup being the UK series, not the European one that runs with the GT Sports organisation, and paired up with Andre specifically, joined the team in GT Cup that year, and then paired up with Andre in the British GT Championship last year. And of course, Andre in his 4th year with the team now, having made his debut in the Porsche Sprint Challenge GB back in 2020.
Yeah, still a very active pit lane. Kiki Saknana in the distance, just crossing over and conversing with members of his team. And of course, we'll be stepping into the car to take over from Adam Osaka. You can just see him in the distance, the Thai drift star, who, when he takes over the running in the car, should we get back into racing action again, he'll be looking to bring it home and lead the way. And greeting, actually, Timo Rumpf-Kyle as Timo walks back to the Motor Park garage, no less. So, yeah, it should be an interesting fight over the AM race win. Of course, he's got to try and keep, as we said, Roberto Lacorte down, who currently sits in second. He'll be doing the entirety of this race. But, yeah, the Pro-Am battle is going to be fascinating. I can't help but feel sorry a little bit for the Olymp Racing team, because Carol Bash was going to he's doing the opening stint. He's 4th at the moment, 3rd in Pro-Am, but it leaves an almighty task for Marcin Jedlinski should we get back underway.
That certainly does. It will be pretty much a battle of the AMs. Of course, probably great news for Polcini. As we know, he's one of the fastest bronze drivers in the field. Does have 10 seconds of handicap to serve, of course, but once that is served, he will certainly be in a very strong position ahead of what will be Ernst Kirkmeyer and Marcin Jedlinski. There is 3 cars between the top 3 in Pro-Am, and then Lewis Proctor in 4th in that category, in 8th position overall.
Just see some pressure changes, I think, being made, or maybe they're being upped, or as we now see them going to work on Christopher Haas's Audi R8 LMS. Of course, a reminder, race control have deemed that cars can be worked on as long as there's no refueling or driver change. So no concerns where it comes to changing the PSI in the tyres ahead of wet weather conditions. And that can ultimately make a huge difference as well. When you have got a slick surface, depending on grip, you might want to up or down the pressures in your tyres in order for it to respond better to the damp slick conditions.
And how great is it that we still have Audi supported teams across GT racing? Obviously, it was a big news last year. Audi's going to stop doing GT racing because they're focusing on Formula One, and it ended up being that it's going to be you know, it's not that they're pulling out. They're just not going to make a new car for a while. Still providing factory support to their cars, and also factory drivers in the form of Chris Haase here in the International GT Open as well. And that is really great news for the championship. 5-minute board is going to be displayed in just under 30 seconds time. So that means we should be going for a restart because, well, by the sounds of it, by the looks of it as well, it's stopped raining.
It's looking clearer, Chris. And again, I will say this, not necessarily music for Christopher Haase or even that of Carol Bash, a few other names out there that might be chasing bigger results. But, you know, this does open a window of opportunity for SPS Performance. Dominic Baumann, Nico Menzel, watch out for Marcos Seibert. Of course, Diego Menchaca will be taking over later on. But it's going to be really interesting to see who can truly extract the most out of their cars. We could yet see a major rise for Vincent Abril as well, because Nicola Marinangeli 17th at the moment in this field. And Anthony Bartone, don't forget, will be handing over to Fabian Schiller. So sit tight, and they won't have as much handicap to serve as some of the others.
Yeah, so we'll wait for the restart. Obviously, the 5-minute boards, just giving teams enough warning to get ready and also clear off so that we can get going for a race once again. I imagine it'll be a few laps behind the safety car once we do get going. There's still an awful lot of grey clouds out there, but it does seem like the rain has abated for now, and we have potentially good enough conditions for us to get going again. Of course, the team's going to a bit of an overdrive mode now, as we see
A lot of activity.
Yeah, people running, people getting messages to each other, radios being clambered with, headsets being clambered with, while people run up and down pit lane.
A lot of desperation out there right now. Timo Römfkarl already voicing over the radio. Very efficient team boss. Restart confirmed at 2:15 local time. So in the small matter of near enough 4 minutes, nearly 3 minutes in fact, and we'll be back underway, and we'll see who's going to prevail in this extraordinary circumstance that we have here at Paul Ricard.
And of course, teams will still be on the wet tyres. There is the 3-minute board being displayed.
I think that's Joe Osborne I can see in the middle, actually taking either a selfie or just taking some pictures in general. Obviously, was a contender for the International GT Open back in 2022 against Leonardo Polcini, but here offering his expertise to the sole McLaren 720S team on the grid, and carries a wealth of experience, as Joe Osborne has competed at this championship a number of times. And I must say, it was quite near enough the Cinderella story. I mean, there were Cinderella stories back in 2022, but it was so tight between Polcini and Osborne. And the dire moments. Nick Moss did a fantastic job that campaign as well. But great to see Osborne here with the Greystone team.
Always great when we have previous drivers popping in and saying hello. I mean, we were talking about PRC, Pierre-Louis Chauvet, who's here this weekend as well. Yeah, I'm sure he's popped into Oregon to say hello to Jerry Canavicio and team. And apparently Dan Arrow also popped in. Yes, of course, former driver from last year as well. And it all got a bit emotional. I'm sure his lips started to quiver as he was reunited with the memories.
Well, it's quite the... they are quite the team. I mean, when you look at the Oregon family unit, I mean, Jerry Canavicio with his warm personality. Don't get me wrong, he's a man who cherishes results as much as colleagues and friends as part of his team at Team Oregon, but they all want to win, and that's the mentality. You know, every race provides a fresh opportunity as far as Jerry Canavicio is concerned, and Pier Giorgio Testa, who works as a partner with him in the Team Oregon lineup, who really do bring the helm of Lamborghini Huracan GT3s to the forefront here in the International GT Open. As we said, many drivers going on to effectively become factory drivers, including that of Leonardo Polcini. The 1-minute board now raised here, and the engines will fire up as we look to then take to the circuit with Christopher Haase leading them through, Agostini waiting in the wings, Fuminelli as well. Get ready, folks. Popcorn at the ready, Chris.
Quite. So I'll have 35 minutes left on the clock for the remainder of this race. And the safety car will, in about 30 seconds' time, lead them out and be able to explore the conditions. And now we'll also have to wait for news on when the driver change window is going to open as well. I imagine it will be relatively soon once we go green again. But who knows? Maybe because the window's got to be about 13 minutes or so, isn't it? So it could be actually that you run your AM for minimal time at all. So maybe this still work out for some of the Pro-Am cars, but we are back on track under safety car conditions, but the clock ticking once again. And see the spray is already looking not fantastic, but of course we'll clear that up a little bit while we're under these safety car laps. We'll see what the visibility is like, crucially what the aquaplaning is like, which given that things have dried up a little bit shouldn't be too bad now.
No, obviously now just getting themselves accrued to the current state of the circuit. As I said, temperatures have dropped in the time where we have spent witnessing the weather come out and deliver us a deluge. 18.2 the air temp, 20 degrees the track temp. Humidity has dropped slightly, was 88, it's now 81. But the wind speed has picked up slightly again, 16.1 kilometers an hour, though it can vary at different portions of the circuit, I'm sure. Quite a lengthy circuit, this one, in totality. So no doubt, as we've seen the rain spread across this circuit, that the wind conditions can vary just as much. As we see the safety car leading the crew of cars, looking to get underway and scramble for the best results possible. Christopher Haase, coming off the back of winning yesterday, sees himself back at the top once more, with Agostini in hot pursuit after grand efforts as well alike. But he grabbed pole. He would love to grab a victory, and he's got Marco Polcini stepping into the seat as soon as that window opens up. And we'll see how that driver change works out for the Spirit of Race AF Corsa lineup.
You see already, even at low speed, you can't see the cars. It's just headlights.
Just a lot of glare, isn't it? Reflection off the water on the track as well. You can just see Haase's, as well as the rest of the crew. It's almost like a night race, almost.
We're getting that vibe, aren't we?
A little bit.
It's been so overcast all day. It's just what a difference 24 hours makes. Yesterday, we were all sat around the paddock, like gasping for air and chugging water and trying to find any fan that would blow even remotely, cool air into your face.
You couldn't have more opposite ends of the spectrum in one weekend than this. I mean, it's extraordinary. Yesterday was absolutely boiling hot, and many of the drivers having to deal with that, and many doors have been left open through the course of the weekend as they look to try and deal with that really aggressive heat. Now all that sweat is a thing of the past, though I will say this, the humidity is still relatively high, even though it has decreased by 8% or so, as the cars now head around the final few corners on this opening returning lap since the fast lane opened. I thought Menzel was going to think about going into the pits then for a brief moment.
Picking up different lines. I mean, surely he's got to be one to watch on the restart, as one of the top pro runners out there without a handicap to serve. Of course, this puts the likes of Baumann and Menzel in a really, really good position.
It does,
because they are unhandicapped, and they will be quite strong. We know they've been fast. They've both been rising up the order. Maybe this is the opportunity for the number 20 to finally take its first win of the season. Of course, Marcos Sieber and Diego Menchaca are also looking for that same honour. In fact, they're unhandicapped as well. We'll see how it plays out. Of course, Mikael Patamberg, Gustav Bergström, and Diego Menchaca are going to have quite a big role to play in this when the driver change occurs later in the race. And for now, we're still just exploring conditions out there.
I mean, if you're Mikel Pitamba, you're well versed to race wins here in the International GT Open, especially last year. He won both with Re-Spa and also with Dominic Baumann to close out the campaign last year. So, you know, it's quite a surprise in a way, but if you want a driver to perform in the most unlikely of circumstances, he's probably the one you want. And having someone like Dominic Baumann in your corner alike is no mean feat. You know, Baumann's done it all. Blancpain GT driver, is a former champion as well in that side of things, and also a winner in the International GT Open historically too. So, you know, no question, with a combination like that behind the wheel of an SPS Performance Mercedes, they've got a huge chance from 5th place, and with no requirements to serve a handicap, again, it alleviates that favour more in their corner and takes it away from the likes of Christopher Haase, Riccardo Agostini and David Fuminelli, so on and so forth. But most notably Christopher Haase, seeing as they are the overall pro combination at the head of the field. But we'll wait and see how that unfolds. And like you so rightly said, Marcos Seibert, Diego Menchaca with no handicap to serve. Still though, as we now confirm, the safety car is coming in this lap. Pit window is still postponed. No driver change allowed still just yet. They will resume racing, and we'll update you as to when that driver change window does open.
So we are going to go racing. 29 minutes left in this race. It's very much going to be a sprint to the finish now. This time it will be Christopher Haase who puts his foot to the floor, and he'll unleash the taps on the 5.2 litre V10 Audi and try and re-establish the gap he had over Ricky Agostini in quick succession. Of course, we saw David Fuminelli was challenging Agostini for the Pro-Am lead before we went onto red flag conditions. And what could Carol Bash do as well? Third in Pro-Am. Haase puts his foot to the floor. Already Bash is trying his luck against Fuminelli. We're back racing once again in the Castellet. A plume of spray meets most of the drivers down the front straight, but it's Haase with the clear view in front as he barrels down towards turn 1. Agostini looking one way, looking the other, still exploring those different lines compared to his rivals.
I think Agostini was looking for that clear view. Obviously, the Audi projecting a lot of mist, and that's Fuminelli just going off wide as well. So that's allowing Carol Bash to potentially come through, but not this time. Retaking his place, David Fuminelli. Bash could not quite thwart him heading through the first sector.
Menzel off again. That's the second moment he's had down there, and he was trying to take a place on Dominic Baumann for 5th position. This is on board with Arrow as he looks at the back of Thomas Eikens Motor Park Mercedes. But it looks like Menzel has been able to rejoin the track just behind Baumann, and crucially has not lost position to Marcos Seibert. We see the spray when they get down the Mistral. Surely the drivers at the back are really going to be struggling with this one, but that's why we have the rain lights. It's why these drivers are the pros as well. So they head through the Mistral, keeping it neat and tight. He's back on board with Menzel in his pursuit of Dominic Baumann's Mercedes, and this could well be for the lead, the net lead of the race in a few minutes' time, because these are the top two who have an all-pro lineup and are unhandicapped, and so it's Baumann, Menzel, and Seibert that could be the crucial fight there. The white and purple Mercedes, the blue and gold Porsche, and the gold and green Mercedes behind him as well. And side by side, Carol Bash trying to get on the inside of David Fuminelli through Le Bousset. That's for 2nd position in Pro-Am, and the Polish driver is through.
Yep, certainly is. Carol Bash finally managed to edge his way past Fuminelli. Of course, we saw Fuminelli going out wide earlier on into the lap, but of course, Carol Bash could not quite make the move at that point. This time, though, in the final sector, the opportunity was open. Dominic Baumann also coming closer as well, and might have it fancy a chance. A lot of wheel play there from Nico Menzel as they come around again, but once again, Baumann finding an inside line. You never know, if he gets a better exit, he could yet challenge David Fuminelli heading down the long straight. Menzel watching it all unfold. He's got the best view in the house, despite the spray being kicked up off the back of Bauman's car, as now Haase takes them through in towards turn 1. Agostini in second, into the pits though.
Yeah, change
Diego
on.
Menchaca changes on.
Yeah, so Thomas Aikin to the pits as well. Oh, no, sorry, it's the 96, which is Lorenzo Fluxer about to get on board that car. Also in there, you have Diego Menchaca, of course, but these guys, I'm sure, will try and stretch this out as long as possible. Cipriani into pit lane as well. He has got to sit there for an additional 15 seconds. I would say his success in the AM category. But of these leading runners, the only one that are doing anything different is the number 17 Motorpark Mercedes. They've come in straight away. Everyone else will probably stretch this out as far as possible. Right, Fabian Schiller now on board the number 9 Get Speed Mercedes. Watch out for him as well, but he will have to be sat there for an additional 5 seconds with his handicap. As we see Bash now in second place. He has fallen 2.5 seconds back from the class leader Ricky Agostini while he's been in pursuit of Fuminelli. There we see behind them Bauman and Menzel, as well as Christian Korzanowski is about to get on board the number 5 Olymp Racing Ferrari. That was on the podium in the AM category yesterday.
Dan Arrow moving up to 11th as well, by the looks of it on screen. Quite a few drivers being moved around. Vincent Abril now in the car and taking over the helm, as now we see some side-by-side as well. Now that's Serna Giotto's car witnessing a bit of a move there. Jim Pla heading on through ahead of Serna Giotto, heading through the Bousset. So managing to get that Mercedes ahead of the Ferrari 296 as they head in towards the latter points of the lap, the latter points of the sector. That's Alex Fontana further down as well in 15th place, who, remember, started further up the field. It's now Dan Arrow very wide. Oh, wowee. I could have sworn the rear end was going to go there, Chris.
No, that wasn't a bullseye moment for him at all, was it? But did manage to gather it up very nicely. So he heads back down the straight, but of course he's lost a bit of time there as Ollie Webb is into pit lane as well. So just under 8 minutes left on the clock. So you could go down to, I think, about 15 or 16 minutes left as Jim Pla tries to come back at Serna Giotto there, who has a big slide. Does the Italian, and Jamie Stanley's going to try and take full advantage of that as well, as is Alex Fontana. Again, great battling in the Pro-Am category. We have 19 cars. It's not a knife fight, it's not a gunfight, it's a bar brawl out there as the Porsche gets up the inside. Serna Giotto has to leave him some space, splashing through the puddles in the runoff area. It's Stanley Fontana, Pla and Serna Giotto still side by side.
Yeah, into the pits comes Artem Petrov. Marzio Moretti takes over. Into the pits comes the Cetilar Ferrari as well. Roberto Lacorte doing his stop, of course, doing the stint all by himself. There's Dominic Bauman still chasing after Carol Bash. Further back then is Nico Menzel, who is also out there on circuit too. Jamie Stanley doing a great job to harbour off the attacks further back, but runs very deep coming into the chicane at the halfway point of the Mistral Straight. Alex Fontana getting right into the thick of all this. Remember, he started in 4th place. Menzel now 6th in accordance to our timing screen, giving chase to Bauman. Proctor in behind those with Thomas Aikin. Leonardo Polcini having a great drive, now moving up into the top 10 alike. So there is some decent moves and shakers on parts of Team Aragon, but bear in mind there are many cars coming into the pits, and that is Sieber Menchaca.
Championship leading car. Once again, it happened in Budapest for them, and they have got a problem. That car is parked up, smoke coming out of the radiators.
That looks like game over to me, Chris. It does look like it's a car that's in trouble, that's for sure. Menchaca has only just taken the car over from his teammate Marcos Sieber, the LMS champion, who has just literally jumped out.
What do they have to do to get a break? It's unbelievable.
Misfortune after misfortune against this team that was second in the championship coming into this weekend. Well, that's going to change as we now take a slow-mo look at what could have happened. But you can see the smoke just barreling out of the car. Might be steam, actually, more so.
Yeah, I mean, something's coming out of there, isn't it?
Yeah.
But, my And that's at turn 2 by the looks of it. Some good yellow flags out there. And it's raining again, and it's raining pretty hard out there as well.
Oh,
so conditions are deteriorating once again.
Almost back where we were.
So, yeah, quite. So this is Baumann on the back of Bash for what is now 3rd position, because into the pits has come Agostini to hand over to Marco Polcini. We still have 5 minutes left on that driver change window. See, again, different lines being taken by some of these drivers. Once again, it's just topsy-turvy, isn't it? Because suddenly now this SBS car's got a fantastic shot in the championship with the car that it was tied on points with for the lead in the championship going into this race is out. And they have used their non-scores now, because they had a did not start the Motorpark car in the first race in Portimao. They had a non-score in Hungary after they were caught up, not their fault at all, in that first corner collision in Budapest. They didn't score points in that race, and now they've got some sort of technical issue on that car that has prevented them yet again. I mean, what do they have to do? The two best friends who have been competing and friends since their days at Campos together, they've been going for the title for 2 years in a row now, but they just can't get a break.
Well, especially when you consider as well the contest for the title back in Barcelona. As we now watch the cars pirouette through the Bousset section, it was heartbreak for Menchaca at the end of last season, where he thought he had laid claim to the title, as now Menzel takes a more aggressive line against Baumann once again, coming in towards Garlaban out of Ben D'Or. You can just see further up a wide line taken by Carol Bash. Again, differing lines between the different drivers, all looking for better delta and better grip. It's very hard to find out there, but obviously embracing those wet tyres here in conditions such as this at Paul Ricard. And what makes this really topsy-turvy is trying to locate your peripherals. Is now into the pits. Wow, very nearly touching as well between Nico Menzel and Dominic Baumann. Pitamba and Bergström are going to step into their respective cars.
Yeah, this is going to be a crucial moment for them. They come in line astern. Now,
no handicaps, remember.
No, it's just the basic minimum pit stop time. So it's not so much a straight fight, but still they will want to be making sure they don't have any delays. So we'll see how close they are when they come out. Of course, wet tyres still the order of the day, as Dan Arrow vacates the good speed Mercedes and hands over to Piotr Vera. Timo van der Helm also handing over to Bashar Mardini as well. The Leipert in as well. Masek Barzlek is getting on board that car as well. We have further yellows out now at turns 6 and 7. That's leading on to the Mistral. So something's happened down there, and I'm waiting to see. Maybe that's the Motorpark car that's got going and stopped again, because it's showing that car 17 is stopped there at the moment.
Yeah, it does seem that way. Leonardo Polcini up to 6th place as well, and closing on Thomas Aikin. He's within a second of Aikin's Motorpark car. So you never know. We could see Team Oregon back again here at Paul Ricard, fighting for the win. Of course, Polcini's still yet to box, so he'll be coming in very soon, I'm sure, because we're coming into the final 1 minute and 40, and he's not alone, because there's a sea of cars that have still got to box, Haase being one of them, as well as Fuminelli, Bash, Proctor, Aikin, Fontana, Pla, as well as Adamo Seika. Pato Wera currently at the head of those in P10 that have pitted, and of course Bergström, Pitamba, who are also in the pits serving the regulated time that they must serve as a standard. Vincent Abril, I would argue, is probably the one to watch, because he's 13th place and has already come in, and we'll see how he fares coming in towards the end of the race.
So Haase coming in this lap, as will Fuminelli, Bash, Proctor, Aikin, Polcini, Fontana, Pla and Osaka as well. So race leader into pit lane. Yesterday's race winner and our long-time race leader here, but Simon Riker now about to get into the car, and of course don't forget they have 10 seconds of handicap to serve, and so the question is going to be where do the cars that we're chasing, the unhandicapped cars that we're chasing, come out in relation to them. According to our timing screen, somehow Vincent Abril has jumped everyone.
Yeah,
and is now second, well, probably in a net
Net
second place,
P2.
maybe even a net lead.
Well, he's just overtaken Puerto Vera, so that'll be a net lead at that point because Puerto Vera has already come in. He came out in front. Vincent Abril must have taken him on that last lap. So now Abril is essentially in that net lead position. He's already boxed. So he's the leader of those who have pitted. So with Riker, Kirkmeyer, Proctor, Bondwell, as well as Kiki, Saknana, Bash, Fontana, Pla. Keep your eyes peeled on this. There is the number 10 Oregon of Jordan Pepper, who has managed to get past as well the Gustav Bergström car collection Porsche.
And Mikael Pitamba as well. He was behind them at the start of the lap. Menzel trying to come back at the Lamborghini Works driver.
This is looking good for Oregon because...
It is, isn't it? Yes, it's Vera that's ahead of them.
Yeah, but also Abril's already got past Vera, so he's further up. So Abril's in a great position.
And Pitamba out of nowhere on Bergström. That was brilliant. So this is the South African finding his way through. We've got 15 minutes left on the clock. We're about to see where Riker comes out in relation to him. I think he's come out ahead of them. I think Riker's still ahead because there's Pepper going through, and I think Riker already went through the shot.
Well, Polcini's old car anyway. Yeah, Bondwell in the car, who swapped over for Leonardo Polcini, and they're going to run side by side now. Bergström and Bondwell, wheel to wheel now, heading down towards the hotel section. Of course, Pitamba sat in front of them. Further on, side by sides, further up alike as well. So this is all about positions here at this point, fighting over points. The Proctor pairing as well sat in front of a group of these cars, a cluster of them, all fighting over track position here coming out of turn 6. And there is Marcin Jedlinski as well.
So I think we've ended up with Pro-Am cars leading. It's Thomas Eichen and Ernst Kirkmeyer, so Motorpark leading Racing 1, then Simon Riker, then Vincent Abril.
Yeah.
Somehow it's showing Thomas Eichen a minute ahead of Ernst Kirkmeyer. I'm not sure how that can... Well, we'll see if it updates itself shortly. Could just be... Quirk under the driver change window, but Pitamba rounds up Stuart Proctor. Fabian Schiller trying to find his way through as well. He's come out of nowhere. Well, look Schiller as well.
Look at the sea of pros that are now in the car and behind the wheel of all of these. We're going to have such a rampant fight right through towards the end, and the conditions have shown no signs of ceasing as they come through Scene Corner this time around. There's Bergström. He rounds around the outside of the Proctor McLaren 720S GT3 as they now pirouette through Bousset. Pitamba still in front of them all.
I'll tell you why Eichen was a minute ahead of everyone. He hadn't been in the pit lane, but he's missed the bot. He's missed the...
So that could be a penalty going their way.
Yeah, there'd definitely be a penalty.
Yeah.
So Morten Stromstead now in the car. So it is Simon Riker and Vincent Abril. So this is for the lead of the race right here. Simon Riker versus Vincent Abril.
Yeah, coming in towards the final corner at Pont, and it's still Riker who holds on to effectively the lead of the race. But Abril, who has done a sterling job since taking over the car. Of course, Marin Angeli taking the initial stint. 6/10 is all that separates them. And now the Audi R8 LMS has got to get his skates on, but you've got to give Haas a credit because he's put Riker in a position where he does have the race lead once again, as they did yesterday, even despite the 10-second handicap they had to serve during the pit stop phase.
And it's role reversal. Haas was the aggressor. Abril has a big swapper out of turn 2. Haas was the aggressor trying to come through the pack yesterday. This time it's his teammate Simon Riker, and he's got to get his elbows out to keep someone of Vincent Abril's caliber at bay. We know he is an absolute demon in that Ferrari 296. They are also hunting for their first win of the season. Not necessarily in the title fight are Abril and Marin Angeli, but a win would certainly change that prospect. So it could be East Talent for the 4th time this season, or it could be Spirit of Race for the first time this season on the overall podium. But don't discount Jordan Pepper. He's only 7 seconds off the lead in 4th place. Fabian Schiller only 11 seconds off the lead in 6th place as well. This race is far from done with 12 minutes left on the clock.
Yeah, and Pepper's just taken 4th place as well, ahead of Stromstead, Morten Stromstead, and Fabian Schiller has taken 2 places and moved up to 6. So they are on a mission to look for these big points as well. And you can just see Riker defending to the inside, watching every move that Abril makes. The actual rain itself has actually dissipated somewhat. It certainly wasn't as bad as it was before, though I have to say the spray is no different, and I'm sure Abril's getting a face full of it right now as they come through Bousset. The Audi R8 LMS still holding on to the lead as it did yesterday. Marcin Jedlinski losing more places as Pitamba and Lorenzo Flusha move up a place themselves.
Schiller now through on Stromstead as well into 5th position.
They're coming, Chris.
Overall.
They're coming.
And so, Ernst Kirkmeyer still holding the Pro-Am lead for now in 3rd position. We'll see what the likes of Stromstead and Jedlinski have to say about it as well. Of course, got Marco Polcini 4th there as well, but maybe 14 seconds or so back. Might be a bit too much to ask in the last 10 minutes, but we'll keep an eye on it as Riker continues to defend against the AF Corsa run Spirit of Race Ferrari that is filling his rear view mirrors as it stands. He's coming under big pressure. Right, this is on board with Menzel.
Bondwell as well.
Looking at the back
of Bondwell.
Amory Bondwell in the 63.
Yeah.
And Bondwell's just gone through, actually, into 10th position overall.
Yeah, looking to carry on the good work that Leonardo Polcini managed to put together in the opening stint. There's Riker, and I must say, I'm impressed with Simon Riker here at this stage. Not fazed by Vincent Abril in behind. I'm sure he's a little worried about it, but I would say this weather, the great equaliser, Chris.
We'll see. We'll see. The Audi has obviously a very different setup. I mean, they told me they don't like the cold conditions, but it's seemingly working out there in the wet conditions out there at the moment.
It's not doing him any harm.
No, the mid-engine 5.2-litre V10 of the Audi, the front mid is how it's described by Ferrari, the 3-litre twin-turbo V6. That is it's such a newer car as well. It made its debut last year, packed with downforce, but the Audi is such a known platform. The R8 has been around since since before GT3 was actually a thing, and the modern era of GT3 racing anyway, and it's just been evolved over many years and has become such a stable platform for the drivers behind. Right, Jordan Pepper through into 3rd position. Now we can see he's passed the Pro-Am leader Ernst Kirkmeyer. The gap 8.6 seconds, and I dare say that gap will close in the remaining 9 minutes of this race.
Yeah, and illustrate this as well. Vincent Abril, 18 places up from where he started. Jordan Pepper up 20 at this point, and Ernst Kirkmeyer in jeopardy because here comes Fabian Schiller with a chiller up his spine, moves up into 4th place. Fabian Schiller dancing all across Paul Ricard and now hunting down Jordan Pepper. Take a look at this. Riker, Abril, Pepper, Schiller. What a top 4.
I feel like we're in a really similar position to yesterday, where we got the top 4 cars, but each one incrementally faster than the one in front of it. But we'll see what the lap times are like, actually, because we haven't really seen what Schiller and Pepper can do in purely clear air. We know that Abril is fast. We know that he's piling the pressure on, but how quickly can Pepper and Schiller get on their back bumper? 8 minutes to go, and Riker continues to hold firm at the front.
He certainly does. 9/10 of a second is the gap as they cross the line. Pepper, Schiller now joining him, becomes the 4th place contender as Kirkmeyer is deposited. Let's take a look at this moment, of course, heading through Bousset. Kirkmeyer taking that wider line. It was oh so simple for Schiller, who had that favourable inside Tiger line alike, and the Mercedes-AMG GT3 was able to move up into 4th place. So it's Pro 1, 2, 3 and 4. Pro-Am in 5th with Ernst Kirkmeyer at the wheel, and he'll be relieved to know that Marcin Jedlinski is quite a ways back in 10th place. So if Ernst Kirkmeyer can keep it on the road, keep it under fair control, then he should be okay. But there's a long way to go. Of course, 7 minutes may not seem that long, but in the context of this particular race, I bet you it feels like a marathon.
See, Bondwell. And what's happened to Riker? What has happened to Riker? He's falling down the timing order.
Good Lord.
Is that a transponder issue, or is that actually a problem? We'll wait to see where the leaders are.
Well, according to the track map, he's still there in front, coming out of turn 9.
Okay, so it's just potentially a transponder issue, but the GPS working just fine. Okay, Mikhail Pitamba in the car. Yeah, okay, confirmation on the screen now. Riker's still in the lead, and the transponder has reached the signal. He's back up in the timing order. But yeah, we were seeing there Amory Bondwell challenging Mikhail Pitamba for what was 7th position.
Remember the gap as well between Abril and Riker was 9/10. It's gone out to beyond a second. 1.1. Haas are watching on tentatively. And I must say, must be absolutely thrilled with how Simon Riker has approached this latter stint. This is a huge ask for someone like Simon Riker. This may be a pro entry, a pro car, but consider the names that he has got behind him, the experience levels as well, as now Kirkmeyer loses a spot to Lorenzo Flusha, who now moves up to 5th.
And the gap between Pepper and Abril isn't really coming down. It's still 7.6 seconds. Maybe the fastest, well, actually, the fastest driver last time around of the top 4 was Simon Riker. So he's quicker than Abril, quicker than Pepper, quicker than Schiller.
It's extraordinary.
Well, we'll see what it is this time around. But right now, the sector times are looking fairly static. 1 second separates Riker and Abril as we have a replay at Simon van der Helm. Oh, it was contact here between the Pro-Am Mercedes, Morten Stromstedt getting spun round there by Alessandro Cosi, I think it was. And then I think he had a spin of his own, actually, as that was the move from Lorenzo Fluscher.
Of course, Morten Stromstedt was trying to close up to the back of Kirkmeyer for P1 in the Pro-Am Championship. He just witnessed his fellow Motorpark counterpart, Lorenzo Fluscher, trying to close up. Car 14 getting dished with 10 seconds, should I say, in the car 95 as well, getting dished out with 10 seconds of time penalties for entering out of pit window. So that was the car that came in and boxed late that we witnessed, of course. So that was the Thomas Eichen, if we remember correctly, that was at the top of the timing screen.
Yeah, and the good speed kart serving less handicap, so that's been penalised 14 seconds. So on board with Menzel here as he's still looking at the back of Bondwell and Pitamba. And Kirkmeyer now as well, they've caught onto the back of, but still Abril cannot find a way past Riker.
It's back down to 9/10 again. He has found a little bit, but it's still not enough. And if you take a look at the first sector, 38.602, sorry, for Simon Riker, 685 for Vincent Abril. And look at the gaps in sector 2 more so. Only 3 thousandths between them. Somehow, some way, despite it only being fine margins, I said the rain is the great equaliser. Riker is certainly finding that here.
The only driver faster than Riker at the moment is Fabian Schiller. That's astonishing. To think where Simon Riker was a year and a half ago when he joined the GT Open alongside Chris Haase, the leaps and bounds that he has made on as Pitamba tried to make a move on Ernst Kirkmeyer, and that opened up the door for Amory Bondwell to slip his Lamborghini through on the inside and into 7th position ahead of the car that may well now be leading the championship by the end of it. Depends where Riker finishes, I'm sure.
Well, if it stays like this will extend Mikael Pitamba, Dominic Bauman's consistent points tally once again. They'll go through still as drivers that have won, secure points in every race this season is now Ernst Kirkmeyer seemingly losing a place to Bondwell now as well. Obviously won't affect the Pro-Am side of things, but obviously as far as these pro cars are concerned, they want to get past ASAP because Pitamba lost a place to obviously Amaury Bondwell earlier on, fighting with Ernst Kirkmeyer. Gustav Bergström is going to try and go around the outside and make it a 3-wide scenario heading in towards turn 1. No car giving way whatsoever. Late on the brakes.
Kirkmeyer's off. The Pro-Am leader skating across the road.
He was fortunate
lost it under braking, and he's so close. And that was Marco Polcini going through into the lead of Pro-Am.
He was fortunate not to hit the wall, but it has cost him. I think the Pro-Am leader, Marco Polcini, will now take it up. So another grand scenario for Marco Polcini in his hunt for a Pro-Am title for his 2nd successive year.
And remember, that car had 10 seconds of handicap as well. It's been a great stint here for Marco Polcini. Right, Vincent Abril looking a bit closer to the back of Simon Riker. Now, we have only got 2 and a bit minutes left on the clock. Surely we are on to the penultimate lap of the race. Riker's only got to survive less than 10 kilometers to go for Riker in this race. He is really up against it. He's been met with treacherous conditions. Difficult running. The rain is falling harder again now. It's been so on and off all day long, and it is on right now. And the likes of Abril behind him, chasing him down. This is a tall order for Simon Riker.
Somehow, though, gaining up to a second, coming out of, well, into Bousset. Remember, that gap was down to 4:10, so Abril still not finding that way or route to get past Riker, and the rain now persisting to fall once more. Car 25 under investigation as well for cutting turns 8 and 9, but all eyes must remain to the front because this race is up for grabs. Abril crawling all over the back of Riker's car, and you sense a little bit of trepidatiousness, a little bit of nerves as Riker runs slightly wider than Abril does.
We're heading on to the last lap of the race now, and Abril is all over the back of that Audi as it stands. He's got a good run here coming down the straight. It came down to the penultimate lap yesterday for Haase and RICARD. It's coming down to the final lap today in race number 2. Just 0.4 of a second separates the top 2 as they start the final lap. Abril to the outside. RICARD, his mirrors full of spirit of race Ferrari as he leads him into the first chicane. Now, can he hang on to it? It's just 5.8 kilometers to go for Simon RICARD.
Yeah, final lap confirmed here now this time, and Simon RICARD, who took over from Christopher Haase, who put in a stellar first stint, here to follow suit from the stellar last stint he gave in race 1. Vincent Abril charging, looking for every which way possible to challenge Simon RICARD as they come through towards turns 5 and 6, and very shortly turn 7. It's all about the run down the Mistral into scene where things get technical in sector 3, and as they come through now, turn 7 coming up next. Can the Ferrari put itself in a position to challenge? I think RICARD is in a great position here, Chris.
But Abril got a really good run down the Mistral. Haase is watching on, I'm sure. There is barely any fingernails left on his hands, but here comes Abril to the inside. This is where the lead changed hands yesterday. Abril is going for it on the inside. The Monegasque driver, and RICARD has a swap up, and look how wet it is out there as Abril barely got it stopped, but he has done so. And on the final lap of the race, Vincent Abril leads, but RICARD's coming back at him on the run up towards Scene Corner.
He got a lovely exit, Simon RICARD coming out to the Mistral chicane, but is it enough to challenge coming through turn 10 at Scene Corner? It's still Abril out in front. No, he's kept it. He's kept it. Here at this point, Abril leads, but can he hold it together in the very technical sector 3?
But will they even survive this sector? Look how wet it's gotten out there. Vincent Abril's really got to keep it neat and tidy, as does Simon RICARD. Look, it's an absolute deluge out there right now. They are going to be crawling around these last few corners to try and just meet the checkered flag safely in one piece. This is not a race anymore. This is survival right now, as we see both cars having a twitch out of turn 12, and they're heading up towards the last couple of corners now. Well, from 20th on the grid, what a sterling performance from this number 51 machine, and Nicola Marinangeli in the opening stint, but Vincent Abril right at the end of the race, on the last lap of the race, he takes victory for the first time this season, and for the first time since his return to the International GT Open. Simon RICARD denied back-to-back victories, but second place is still fantastic points for the championship. Jordan Pepper comes through in third, and is that Marco Pulcini, the Pro-Am race leader, who has gone off on the final lap? Has that now given Blau Motorsport their first victory in class since their return? We'll see as Amory Bondwell comes over the line in 6th position. Who is behind him? Is it going to be the Blau Motorsport car? It is Alain Cadet! Blau Motorsport on the top step of the Pro-Am podium for the first time since their return to the championship as well. Pulcini will have to settle for second. Yannick Mettler and Dexter Muller are going to be on the podium in Pro-Am in the car barn by SBS Mercedes as well. Oh, what a race, George.
Absolutely terrific. Are you gobsmacked? Because I'm gobsmacked. I have to tell you, folks, that was a sensational race. Fantastic effort from Vincent Abril. He threw everything but the kitchen sink at Simon RICARD and finally prevailed, heading through the final sector, finally getting it done, heading out of the Mistral chicane, heading through towards turn 10 at scene. Credit to Simon RICARD. He has no reason to be disappointed one iota. He gave it everything out there. The walls of defence were up. He kept Vincent Abril nearly 9 to a second behind him for a good portion of that final stint, but it all came undone towards the end. But they will no doubt be delighted, given the fact they've come away from Paul Ricard with a victory and a second place, a double podium for Easterland Audi for the first time this season, underlining their credentials as championship challengers here this season.
And Blau Motorsport has erupted. The AF Corsa Run car, Marcelo Han and Alain Cadet. That's going to be a very popular victory, I'm sure. And wow, just look at the conditions that we managed to survive right at the end of the race. Absolutely unreal. Some cars might struggle to even get it back into pit lane, but RICARD's wasting no time. Fabian Schiller was 4th in the end for the Mercedes Works driver. And that, again, some much needed points for their championship. They needed to find that consistency. They started to find it here, just behind Jordan Pepper. Let's go through the results. For the first time this season, it's Nicola Marinangeli and Vincent Abril in the spirit of Race Ferrari. Christopher Haase and Simon Reich have to settle for second, ahead of Jordan Pepper and Alessio De Leda. Fabian Schiller and Antti Bartone in fourth, Lorenzo Fluxer and Lucas Dunner in fifth, then Leonardo Polcini and Amory Bondwell in sixth. But it's a maiden win of the season for Alam Kader and Marcelo Hahn in Pro-Am, ahead of Marco Polcini and Ricky Agostini, with Dexter Muller and Yannick Mettler joining them on the Pro-Am podium, ahead of Valentin Pierberg and Aaron Walker. Jedlinski and Bash just missing out in the end there. Fuminelli and Kirk Meyer just behind. And then the Am win going to Roberto Lacorte for the second time this weekend, with Kiki Satanana and Adam Osaka second, and then Christian Korzanowski and Stanislav Jedlinski third in the Am category. Right, well, this will be interesting. What's it done to the championship standings? Haase and Riker lead by 3 points to Alessio De Leda, Dominic Baumann and Mikhail Pitamba now third. Marcos Siebert and Diego Mencharka now 8 points back after their DNF. A third non-points finish of the season for them. But into Parc Ferme has come Vincent Abril. Marinangeli, the first man to greet him in there. His second victory in the International GT Open for Marinangeli.
Spectacular.
To the top of the car. Oh, we just had a lightning bolt out there, just to underline what the conditions are deteriorating to. But for Abril, that's absolutely astonishing. His first win. Of course, he was a race winner when he came to the GT Open and fought for the title a few years ago with AF Corsa, 4 times a race winner. And a consolidation there from Peter to Simon, who I'm sure will be, he'll think, if only I'd just hung on a little bit longer. But that is a drive that Simon can be very, very proud of.
I mean, that could be a season-defining weekend for the Salent Audi team, but that's the spirit of race for Vincent Abril and Nicola Marinangeli, race winners here at Paul Ricard, and in great style. You can understand the delight. Obviously, Marinangeli learning through the course of this championship since he joined last season, and I think he's come a long way. And having someone as learned as Vincent Abril alongside you certainly makes somewhat of a statement. Jordan Pepper came across the line in third, so Oregon will celebrate a podium here at Paul Ricard. Fabian Schiller enough for fourth. Lorenzo Flucher finishing in fifth, which is a great result for him too. Amari Bonduel as well in his first weekend here in the International GT Open alongside Leonardo Polcini finishing in sixth place. But what about Alam Kader as well? Marcelo Hahn. Take us through the top three, Chris.
It's Alessio De Leda and Jordan Pepper once again on the podium for the Oregon team. In third position for the Italian-South African pairing. So near, yet so far, with Simon Riker and Christopher Haase finishing second after their victory yesterday in the East Talent Racing Audi. Puts them in the championship lead. But for the first time this season, it is Nicola Marinangeli and Vincent Abril in the spirit of Race Ferrari, victors with Alfredo.
So, what a day, what a race, all this water, and at the end, beautiful winners, Nicola Marinangeli, Vincent Abril, on the AF course, a Ferrari spirit of race, actually, this car. Nicola, how was the first part of the race?
Yeah, it was really tricky because there was no visibility at all. There was a lot of aquaplaning, but after the safety car, we did a huge strategy. So thanks a lot to the team, and we made it. Also thanks to my teammate, who did a huge stint.
Yeah, your teammate Vincent back to big.
Okay, I think we lost the roaming camera there, sadly, but good to hear from Nicola Marinangeli, of course.
Terrific result. Obviously, Marinangeli, as I said, coming into this championship for the first time last season. Vincent Abril, of course, under his, well, looking after him at this stage as well.
The AF course of
They are
in the
absolutely thrilled, aren't they? And like I said, that is the spirit of race team right there. Passionate Italian outfit who are here to win, and they've just done so as well. I was about to say as well, with regards to Alan Codera and Marcello Hand, there must be something about Paul Ricard. As I said, pole sitters here back in 2019, and coming here now and winning in Pro-Am is certainly a huge feat for them, and they'll thank their lucky stars. And how about this? Roberto Lacorte, winner of the Am category here this weekend in his first and I think only visit in the GT Open this season.
It's a lot to unpack. We'll try and do it for you. When we got going, it was Ricky Agostini leading the way in the Pro-Am Ferrari from Spirit of Race, but Christopher Haase quickly made his way through into the lead and started establishing a healthy gap. But conditions had other ideas. We had moments, we had cars flying off the road. This moment for Cipriani down at the hotel chicane. He was not the only car to find the runoff area in that moment, as we had conditions worse enough to warrant a red flag. When we got going again, Haase led the field. It wasn't long before we had the driver change window open as well. We had dramas for Marco Siebe and Diego Menchaca, the championship leaders, going into this race, retiring with a problem. Christopher Haase handed over the car to Simon Riker in a timely fashion. Gave him the car in the best possible condition he could as the pro drivers made their way through on the AM runners, with Fabian Schiller making that move on Ernst Kirkmeyer. But then this moment for Kirkmeyer dropped him out to the Pro-Am lead, contact into turn one, and that dropped him down. And then Simon Riker losing the lead to Vincent Abril, having defended so well. Conditions just got worse and worse and worse, right up to the checkered flag until Vincent Abril took his first win since returning to the International GT Open this year, and a second win for his teammate Niccolo Marinangeli after he was victorious with Ricky Agostini last year. And we could see what it meant to the team. And I think that's AF Corsa run cars winning in all three categories, actually.
I think you're right.
Yeah. I have to double check what the specific relationship is with Settler, because they do have a very close relationship with AF Corsa, but victories in Pro-Am and Am, unbelievable. So Jordan Pepper and Alessio Deleda step onto the podium. Yeah, it is. Yeah, because it's entered under AF Corsa, isn't it? Of course, the Lacorte car. So yeah,
confirms it.
That is unreal.
It's a clean sweep for AF Corsa.
What a day! What a day for AF Corsa. That's unreal. So yes, Jordan Pepper and Alessio Deleda on the podium.
Simon Riker got onto the top step by accident.
Oh dear.
Oh dearie me.
He's too used to it. That's his problem.
Yeah. Huge characters at East Audi, but the top spot reserved for Marinangeli and Abril. Sensational result, and the team representative from Spirit of Race, no doubt, just as delighted. They worked so hard this campaign. Deserved winners after that immense effort in those closing stages.
Yeah. First time on the podium that wasn't the top step for East Talent, but now we'll hear the Italian national anthem. Of course, it's the Swiss anthem for the Swiss-entered Spirit of Race car run by AF Corsa. But Deleda and Pepper on the podium for the third time this season. Haase and Riker, first time not on the top step of the podium. What a weekend for them. Victory yesterday, second today, very much affirming their championship ambitions. But I'm sure this is going to be a sweet moment for Vincent Abril and Niccolo Marinangeli as they accept the winners' trophies. What a moment for those two. Because Marinangeli was a victor with Ricky Agostini at Red Bull Ring last year.
Oh, you can hear the weather in the background.
Yeah, there's been quite a few claps of thunder and bolts of lightning opposite us. Doesn't bode so well for the GT Cup race that's going to start shortly
Very
after
soon.
this. Yes, but now this is a very well-deserved celebration for all 6 of those drivers, really. What a race. Once again, 2 fantastic races in the International GT Open here at Paul Ricard. And of course, we're coming back next year, 2025 calendar. We're coming back to all the great locations that we've been to this year, as well as all the locations we got coming up as well. But yeah, this championship fight is going to keep us guessing all the way down until the double points endurance finale at Monza, and we wouldn't have it any other way.
Certainly hasn't disappointed us, has the Castellet, has delivered a clinic here this afternoon, and despite the red flag coming out, a tremendous battle. Jordan Pepper, of course, making it up into P3 alongside Alessio Deletta. They gave a grand account of themselves. Of course, we can't forget the efforts of Simon Riker towards the bitter end. He seems to be improving time and time again into this championship alongside Christopher Haase. But no question, your winners, Vincent Abril, crowned winners here at Paul Ricard alongside Nicola Marinangeli, who took the opening stint, nodding the head. Indeed, Vincent Abril, you have every right to celebrate. We'll take a look at the Pro-Am now.
Yeah, Pro-Am podium now as Dexter Muller and Yannick Mettler are on the podium for the first time this season in the car barn by SBS Mercedes. A very timely result for them. Marco Polcini, how much will he be ruining that last lap moment that denied him victory, but still a very, very good weekend. But here is what it's all about. The Blau Motorsport AF Corsa run Ferrari, Marcelo Hahn and Alam Kader, who take their first win since returning to the International GT Open this year, their 17th year together, 2020 Pro-Am champions in this series. In the it was the Teo Martin Motorsport McLaren back then as well. Of course, competed in Pro-Am for a number of years before that, before going back to Brazil. They're back in Europe. They're back on the top step as well. Great to see, great moment there for Dex and Yannick as well. Such popular figures in the paddock, and of course this will be a good episode of the Full Send Baby series that they have on YouTube at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely right. A good watch as well for any of you who want to check out some behind-the-scenes content of the International GT Open as well. But have a look at this. Phenomenal from Marcelo Hahn and Alam Coder. We actually met them yesterday, and we met them this morning as well, wishing them the very best of luck. And I think they'll be asking us to do that more often, should results stay the same as they are right now. But immense, and no doubt credit has to go as well to Marco Polcini and teammate Riccardo Agostini. Grand accounting qualifying, just a little bit unlucky towards the end with the spin, but it went the way of the AF Corsa lineup. Yeah, outrageous. But Yannick Mettler and Dexter Muller, also fabulous to see them up on the podium.
Yeah, wonderful stuff. Once again, I mean, there is going to be a huge party in the AF Corsa garage tonight, isn't it? Because we've seen them win. Their run cars win overall in Pro-Am, and now when we go to the AM podium as well, we'll see it again.
It's not very often you go near enough a clean sweep throughout the weekend, and that is
unreal.
One way to do it, certainly getting through Sunday the way they have done. Let's wait and see what they can bring when we go to Red Bull Ring next time. But first of all, we have the AM podium to bring you. Roberto Lacorte is going to be standing on the top step for AF Corsa, and he's going to be joined by Kiki Saknana, who once again marks a reappearance on the podium, as well as Christian Korzanowski and Stanislav Jedlinski, back-to-back third places.
Yep, it'll be a fourth podium appearance for the Polish pairing. Stanislav Jedlinski, the oldest driver in the field at ripe age of 74. Of course, Christian Korzanowski, the Nissan Gran Turismo graduate that they didn't make a movie about. Adam Osaka and Kiki Saknana on the podium once again.
Oh, here we go. Fantastic human being, Roberto Lacorte. And representing the Ferrari contingent of AF Corsa once again. Yet more success going their way. Kiki Sanada and Adamo Seika bidding to try and land a challenge, of course, to Giuseppe Cipriani. A bit of a hole in Giuseppe Cipriani's title fight as well, despite him being championship leader. This is obviously not going to be necessarily a result he's going to want to remember, but the representatives from Michelin presenting the trophies to
First time he's finished
podium.
outside of the top 2 all season, which is pretty astonishing. Well, what a weekend it has been in Le Castellet. The GT Open goes on the summer break for a few weeks, but we'll see you when we come back at the Red Bull Ring on the 14th of September.